Instacart or something. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Yeah, it's just talk about the rumor of Sam Altman actually, somebody got arrested
Oh,
for attempted murder on his life. Sam Altman is
is
the
that in our
CEO
news
of
feed
Open.
today?
It's not. No.
Is that? Oh. I would carry some Altman's milk to him, and if anybody tried to shoot me, I would say, "Hey, hey, hey! I'm just a milkman."
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty scary, if you actually have to walk around and think people's gonna constantly kill you. I don't know. I don't ever want to get that way.
All my heroes are in the crosshairs, right?
We're about to start. Enjoy the show, guys.
Welcome to Season 11 of Airhead Institute, your 45-minute AI power-up at noon Eastern. This month, we are broadcasting live across all the socials and Zoom. If you're new here, join our free AI community to grow alongside other curious minds and give your kids a head start by enrolling them in the Airhead After School program. Here is April's weekly lineup. Mondays, we take the training wheels off and run AI locally in the local LLM Forge. Tuesdays, we explore accessible AI apps for rapid learning and self-improvement in the Learner's Toolkit. Wednesdays, we build a company of one from scratch in Solopreneur Systems. Thursdays, we uncover bite-sized productivity and creative tools in Hidden AI App Showcase. Fridays, we push the boundaries of human longevity and biohacking in the Biological Upgrade. We're making AI practical, powerful, and accessible for everyone. No tech background? No problem. Whether you're a student, professional, or lifelong learner, just show up. Guided by your hosts, AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're keeping it bold, brainy, and built for real-world impact. AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind.
Welcome to Season 11 of Airhead Institute. Today is episode 3 of our local LLM Forge series, and yep, I'm still AI Johnny. Every time you upload a document to the cloud, you surrender control. That ends right now. Today, we grant your local AI a permanent, ironclad memory. It will process your most strictly confidential files, financials, strategies, private records, without a single byte ever touching the big tech servers. Absolute offline privacy, complete data sovereignty. And to build this right now, I'm tossing it to AI Junior. I caught him working with this local model, Angsty Teenage Diaries, to teach it his origin story. The AI is already judging his emo phase. Junior, take this away, will you?
Johnny, hey, the AI gave me some very helpful localized therapy, okay? Welcome, everyone. This is an immersive class. You may not understand everything we say here today, but stick with us daily and you'll be fluent in AI in no time. Since it's an interactive class and, you can unmute your mic and chat, ask your questions real time if you're on Zoom. But if you're on the streams, go ahead and ask early. There's a 30-second delay, so type your questions early. We're not ignoring you. We're in week 3 of our April master plan, focus on the autodidact advantage. We are using our local LLM Forge series, taking the training wheels off and moving from the cloud prompting to running AI completely locally on a 16 gigabyte Mac Mini.
The front-end tool that we are using to interface with our local AI is Open WebUI. It runs right on your browser, but completely offline. Fire up a local instance so you guys watching can follow along and try this at home.
Yeah, Mr. Kamal, thanks for joining, and everybody in the live stream again, thank you guys for watching. All right, yeah, Johnny, time for a wow factor demo. You ready for it, yeah, Johnny?
Local wow. Yeah, I guess I could go for a little spin up the old wow factory lane.
All right. So to catch anybody who's actually just catching up to date, so we've been actually every single Monday in the month of April, we've been working with our Mac Mini. We've installed Olama in episode 1. We actually gave it a little bit more juice and be able to work itself locally and interact in episode 2. And now we're here trying to give it some your private documents. So AI Johnny, let's set this up. So I actually have over here, and I know this font is super tiny, so let me make this much, 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 much bigger. I'm gonna start a new chat. And check this, AI Johnny. What I did was I actually loaded a whole bunch of documents, right? A whole bunch of documents into our Open Web UI view and into Gemma 4. So guess what? We only have 128K of context space. But guess what? We need to upload a whole bunch of documents. So I took a timer for the show and uploaded just a couple of documents to our of our past shows. So I uploaded episode 1 and episode 2 to our chatbot. Now, AI Jen, what if I was to tell you that, hey, I want to say what? Can you see, Johnny? Is that okay? Is the font
Yep.
large enough? All right.
Yep.
What did AI Johnny say in response to the wow factor last on episode 2? All right. First of all, I want to tell you guys the power of this. First of all, if I was to ask Gemini, hi Adrian, thanks for joining. Hey Isabella, if we were to ask this question to any one of our local or sorry, any one of our Gemini, what would happen is it would know what we're talking about. It would have zero idea because it wasn't trained on our data. So we're actually, we'd have to actually upload all the transcripts to our large language model, right? And then say search, and then if you actually go to another search, it would actually lose that information. But look, I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna say hashtag, I'm gonna say syllabus. Okay. So I'm gonna now send, and Gemma, my local model, is actually thinking. It actually is gonna figure out, okay, episode 2, I really don't know what that means. Okay, I think I understand. You attach sources, so it says, let me go to episode 2 of the sources. Okay, I see episode 2. Let me go now locally pull in that information. Let me go read the document and go figure out where AI Johnny talked about the wow factor. So keep in mind, the transcript is actually pretty long. We do a 45-minute show here every single day. So right now, Gemma is crunching that document on my local machine. It's actually thinking and it's going to respond with some response. Yeah, Johnny, how hard would that be to go find that information?
Well, I'm the one that said it, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah. So right now you can see it's actually thinking and it's coming back. It actually pulled in 2 sources. If you guys see right here, it pulled in 2 sources. And
So while we're waiting, so you're presuming that this information that you're sent it, which is a show right?
yes, it is proprietary. It is our transcript to our our show. It's what we taught last week. And if anybody wants to go back to the transcripts, they can actually go pull it. So it's, as I said, the absolute crazy part is that you generate that entire application uses a model that running completely offline right there on your desk, right? So this is what AI Johnny expressed amazement and awe in response to the wow factor demo. He said, right, hold on, you just built. So you actually have all of that information there. Yeah, Johnny, what else you want to pull from that episode that might be crazy, right? What piece of information?
The news. What was the best of the news? Hey, before you do this,
Yep,
so you're taking this information that I'll take your word for it that it's sitting in a secured spot and it's not up there. It's that we didn't upload it to Grok or Jive, right?
we did not. This is running our own.
But if it's going to review it, are we running our own large language model
Of course,
too?
we're running Gemma 4, the 2 billion parameter model that we actually set up in episode 1 and episode 2. So if anybody's, again, thank you, Jaya Johnny, for pointing this out. If anybody's actually not seeing the context of what we're doing, if you're joining us for the first time, this is a 4-part. How many Mondays are in April, yeah, Johnny? I think there is 4, right? So anyway,
Or
yeah, so there's 4 episodes in the month of April for Mondays. So what we're doing is every single Monday we're building on top of running your own large language model on your local machine so that you can actually interact with it without actually sending messages out to, the big guys, right? You're not sending your private information over to chat gpt, you're not sending your private information over to Gemini, you're not sending it to Grok. So all of this is building on what we actually taught in episode 1, episode 2. So if you missed those 2 episodes, this episode may not be making sense, but what's happening is it's actually pulling that information now locally from my hard drive, not going outside the internet to go pull that information. So yeah, Johnny, here's the news that from episode 1. And it actually is showing, it's saying the episode is from 2026. It's a naming convention that we use for the dates for the show. And it says, look at this. Coincidentally, Google releases Gemma 4. They dropped their most capable open AI models. That was the first one. And Google introduced TurboQuant, and then AI makes $1 billion solo founder possible. That's a tech health startup. That was the news from that episode, AI Johnny.
So there's this thing called the local UI, right?
Yes, this is actually using WebUI.
Okay, so what's the difference between me using a local LLM and just attaching proprietary files and asking questions about the attachment versus uploading files into WebUI and
So
referencing them?
Yep. So WebUI only just gives you a way to interface. So here's the difference. When you're talking to ChatGPT, you're not actually talking to ChatGPT. I know it sounds really silly. You're actually talking to a web interface that eventually talks to ChatGPT. Just like if you're to talk to Grok, you're not actually talking to Grok. You're talking to a web interface that talks to Grok. So these large language models are actually huge servers that run on the back end that you'll never see and touch. Now, what happens is because we've installed Gemma, which is our local large language model, we get to run it on our local machine. The thing is, there is no web interface for Gemma. There is no chat interface for Gemma because you can talk to Gemma in multiple ways, just like how you can chat to ChatGPT in multiple ways. You don't have to type to it. You don't have to talk to it. You can interface it with an API. You can interface it with a lot of ways, but the most popular way is by using a chat interface. So WebUI is a open source project that actually sits on top of these large language models and let you talk to it in any way you want. So the separation
Got
is
it.
Gemma is the actual model that sits on your local machine, and Open WebUI is actually a chat interface that just lets you talk to the model directly. Make sense?
How else do you talk? How else can I talk to the model if I don't have Open WebUI?
I can actually talk to it with an API. So if I'm actually have a Python script or a JavaScript or a JavaScript, I can actually talk to it that way. Second way is if I have a mobile app, I can build a mobile app and actually voice talk to it. So I don't have to physically chat with it. Or if it's a text to image model, I could maybe just drop images in. And if I drop images in, it will just be able to spit out images. So it could be a different purpose of the model. Say, for example, I am building a model and the model's only for detecting cancer in, say, for example, looking at CT scans. I don't want to chat with that. I just want to feed it CT scans, and it feeds in the CT scan of the patient, and it just spits out little circles where there might be potential issues that I need to pay attention to. So the point is, these models are very, very, very generic. It just so happened that humans communicate via chat. So therefore, the chat interface is like the standard way to communicate with these models, but you're not actually talking to the model directly. You're talking to the model through this chat interface.
When we were talking to Gamma 2 last week, what were we using to talk to it?
We installed Open WebUI, so this is what we actually chat. But before, we were using the terminal, so we're using that little black screen in the terminal to actually talk to it in
Yep.
episode 1. So we upgraded, made it a little bit more user friendly, so we can actually talk to Gemma with a web
Got it.
interface. Cool.
Got it.
Does anybody have any questions, with regard to how we're interfacing with Gemma? All right, yeah, Johnny. Let's get to the word of the day.
Today, the word of the day is RAG, which stands for Retrieval-Augmented Generation. You want to talk a little bit about this, Junior? This is right in your wheelhouse.
Sure. So the word of the day is RAG, so Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So this is really, really important. So a standard AI doesn't know what we did last week on episode 1, right? ChatGPT doesn't know what we did on last week. So what happens is RAG gives you the ability to bridge the gap between the knowledge that the large language model was trained on. Now remember, large language models are trained on data from many months, if not sometimes a year ago. The reason why is because sometimes it takes 6 months to actually train these large frontier models. So because of that, there's a gap with the information that it was trained on and the information that is current and also your personal information. So what we did, what RAG allows us to do is to be able to augment the actual data that it has already been trained on by actually providing it a knowledge base. And this is what RAG really is. Okay. So we used we use some little tools to be able to help it know about this knowledge. But long story short, we're just giving the large language model additional information that it was never trained on. And that's retrieval-augmented generation. Does that make sense, Johnny?
About 6 months ago, we were talking to some lawyers about putting together an application, an AI application that would review old case files of wrongfully convicted or incarcerated criminals,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
one of the challenges that we ran into was, hey, these files are highly proprietary. We can't just upload the case to Grok, because then Grok has the whole case. The other side will have a feather in their cap because we publicly disclosed stuff that we weren't supposed to publicly disclose. So it sounds to me like this local LLM and local interfaces is a step in the right direction to be able to go back into that project. Am I
You're
right?
you're
I'm still
absolutely
not
right.
there.
You're absolutely right, AI Johnny. So what happens is, so just to recap what AI Johnny mentioned. So lawyers have a big, huge problem. The problem is they get all these information that is very secretive, whether it's through a private investigator, whether it's through the police, whatever it is, they get all this information that could help them with their case. Now, what happens is they can't reveal all the information until they go to trial because they need to be able to prove that their client is either not guilty or they're not as guilty as they're accused of. So what happens is they need to be able to put all this data in and understand information from that data. Now, cases have a lot of information. They have security video footage, they have transcript, they have call logs, they have pictures of evidence, they have the crime scene. It's a lot of information. So because it's information, it's very hard for a human to comb through all that information at one point in time. And the problem is you can't shove all that content into context size because context size will just not be able to hold it. So retrieval augmented generation is a way to be able to assist putting all those documents somewhere so that your trained large language model, or pre-trained, I should say, a large language model can actually tap into those things. Now, believe it or not, AI Johnny, RAG itself, the concept existed since the beginning of large language models to solve this context issue. But tools like Open WebUI to be able to do all these things, these RAG architectures itself started popping up because people had to build these things from scratch. So long story short, you have all these tools now that are doing RAG because it's just standard practice what RAG is doing. And RAG is actually becoming the old thing. So even though we're teaching about it, it's there's theoretically newer things that are actually coming out to make RAG generation one of this solving this problem.
So let's say we have a case and there's 800 files, 800 pages of proprietary information that we load into our Open UI so it stays local, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we tell our local large language model to review those files and to carefully go through this list of 1,000 different things that we want to look at that would be indicators that a person was wrongfully charged, wrongfully convicted, wrongfully incarcerated. One of the things that I would think would happen was because the local language model on my desktop is not as powerful as the most powerful one out at Gemini, would it be possible to do all this locally and then prompt the local LLM, listen, feel free to go use Gemini, but don't send any of this proprietary information. If you have a question about case law, or you want to use their enormous processing power to burn and churn, through all this stuff, use the publicly available one, but don't share any of this data. It seems to me like we're right on the cusp of being able to solve this problem for those girls in New York.
Yeah, so you're actually giving a sneak peek of what's known as tools. So we are going to next week, we're going to talk about how to enable our local model to be able to communicate with the outside world or APIs locally with something called tools. So definitely a nice sneak peek for next week. So yes, you have the ability to make your local large language model break the rules and say, you know what, don't just stay local because you may not be as smart. Go out to a more expensive model. And we'll actually talk about that next week. All right. Love it, AI Johnny. So yes, all those things are possible. So guys,
Maybe I'll
let's
invite Bruce and the lawyers in next week.
maybe. All right, so let's talk about this, guys. So where are we actually in this large language model, right? So we actually have set up, and I want to share my screen again. So we actually, how did we do this, right? So if you guys remember episode 1, we installed Gemma. If you missed it, go back to the archives, go look at episode 1. Episode 2, we actually installed this web UI on top of it, so we can actually run our local model in an easy to chat mode. Now, because it's easy to chat, let's go ahead and show you how to set up these sources. So if you actually go to Gemma on the left-hand side here, there is a sidebar, okay? Now, this sidebar allows you to actually see what Gemma has, what WebUI has available to you. Now, it looks very similar to ChatGPT. It has a lot of things. You can actually do a new chat, you can search, you can notes, but what's important is this workspace. So yeah, Johnny, check this out. If you actually go to workspace here, if I click on workspace, I have 5 tabs at the top. The tab that's important is called knowledge. If you see here, if I click on knowledge, it actually has my syllabus already uploaded to my large language model. So if I actually click on the plus button here, right, it says, what are you working on? So we can name your knowledge base. We can call it AI John. Let's call it photosynthesis. I know you love photosynthesis.
I do.
I don't know how to spell photosynthesis. That's why N-T-H-E.
Nthesis.
Yeah. It says it's
SIS.
spelled. Don't worry, I have a quick spell check here. And it says, what are you trying to achieve? I just want to learn. Okay. All right. So because of that, it's asking me my name of my knowledge base is called photosynthesis. Now I can group anything I want. Now I'm going to do photosynthesis here. And I'm going to say the collection itself is private. Again, it's local to me. So it doesn't matter if it's private or public. It doesn't matter because it's private to me. This allows you to have multiple users, but ignore that for now. And then I can actually say create knowledge. No, I actually have a photosynthesis, let's call it knowledge library. Do I need to add things to it? So I'm going to go ahead and add, upload files. I can upload a whole entire directory. I can add a web page. It doesn't matter what, I can add different sources. So let's, just because we're going to add files, we're going to add a file. And I'm going to go ahead and move this off screen a little bit. All right, let me see photosynthesis. I know I have something on photosynthesis here. All right. So we have a photosynthesis document here. So I'm going to upload this, upload this, upload this. So I have some photosynthesis documents. I have no idea remember what's in there. So I've just uploaded something that is photosynthesis specific. So if you see here, I have a photosynthesis homework. I have a photosynthesis paper meets rubric, photosynthesis rubric. I don't even know what's in here. But the point is you can add anything you want in this case. So if you're a lawyer, you could say, I want to add, my client's case and add everything you want. If say for example you're checking your health, you may want to add all your medical information and put everything in there. It's part of the knowledge base. Now if you notice, because I have it all of my knowledge base, I've tagged it with photosynthesis. Now my large language model behind the scenes is doing something as chopping it up, indexing it into a vector database. We won't get into that until the deeper dive. But if I go back to a new chat, AI Johnny, this is the power of uploading the knowledge base. I can at any point in time say $, and I have a new source called photosynthesis. So I'm saying I want to talk about the photosynthesis collection, and I can say, what is the, I think I saw a rubric. What is the what do I need to get an A in this homework? Okay, because I remember seeing a rubric. So I'm just going to go ahead and search. So it's going to only search the photosynthesis documents that I actually uploaded because I tagged it as photosynthesis. It's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to go out to the web. It's not going to do anything else. It's only just going to stick just to what I gave it. And this is how it's going to cut down on hallucinations. Yeah, Johnny, does that make sense? Hey, Shauna, thanks for joining.
That's all kinds of ethical guardrails doing this, right? Because what you're doing is you're doing it all locally. So anytime somebody is using the web to quote unquote get an A on their thing, if they do it locally, there's no tracking what they did unless you track it yourself. But I I would really like to see, instead of photosynthesis, I'd like to see a case file name, right? Some wrongly convicted person. We upload their, 800 pages of information, and now we do it. We show a local search of that information, referencing that stuff locally. It's not going out to the outside world. Google and Grok don't have it, and we can get some real feedback, especially if we have a user prompt that shows what we're looking for that humans would take years to figure out. We can figure out in microseconds.
Exactly. So, yeah, Johnny, just to let you know, the reason why I'm talking about the A in the thing, the reason being is because the sources that we uploaded was pretending as if you were a teacher giving a class and it was just explaining the actual rubric. So it was only just a rubric, which is why when I said I want to know what I need to do to get an A in that assignment, is because it's instead of me reading the rubric table, that's, the rubric, it says you need to actually have
I got
these
it. It
things. Yeah,
simplifies it.
it just
Yeah.
simplifies it. So it actually spat out all the
Because the
details.
rubric shows you what you have to do to get an A, what you have to do to get a B, what you have to do to get a C. And you're
Exactly.
saying, look, I'm only interested in getting an A.
Yes, exactly.
I get you.
All right. So it says to get an A in this homework, you need to demonstrate exceptional molecular accuracy, seamless pathway clarity. Again, I know nothing about photosynthesis and biology, but the point is actually explain what I need to actually do to get an A by uploading those documents. And you can see it's actually tagged the documents here. And here's the document itself, right? It says 56% of the content here. It's actually broke it up into chunks and it's able to actually understand each piece of the actual assignment. Okay. All right. Yeah, Johnny, that's the deep dive. Does anybody have any questions on what we did and what we're doing? Because I know this is our most technical advanced episode. So Adrian actually has a question. Let me bring that in. So how do you deploy an application that is using your local LLM? Is that just containerized within application? All right, great question, Adrian. So because this is running on my local Mac Mini, and because I'm running, if I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek at the browser URL, the browser URL is actually localhost. I'm not sure if that's easy to see. Localhost 3000. So everything is running on my local machine. If you're a developer and if you're actually familiar with all the things I'm actually talking about, the next step is actually not as hard. You have to actually containerize, just as Adrian mentioned, containerize the actual backend, which is the web interface and the actual model, and you put it into something, either AWS or Google Cloud or wherever it is you're familiar with. You deploy it out there, and then you get a domain and point it to that location. And then eventually you'll type in my whatever domain. It will go to your web interface here, and you can now have access to it. But because we're doing everything just locally, we're not going that extent. But great question, Adrian. Yes, you can just containerize everything and you can deploy it out to your favorite cloud provider. All right.
Seems like every time we take a deep dive, we use the same terms: embeddings, temperature, efficiency. These terms come up over embeddings. These terms come up over and over and over again because these are the terms that make up the guts of what the large language models do.
That is
Correct?
exactly correct. Yeah, Johnny. It's, once you understand the concept and the fundamentals, everything becomes easy. Like if the combustion engine itself, again, depending on who invented it and when it was, you can mention that the combustion engine hasn't technically changed, right? It takes in some gas, it takes in some oxygen, it lights a spark, and it creates some kind of explosion, and it pushes a piston. Conceptually, that it is. But guess what? There are lots of different combustion engines, right? And the thing is, there's so many, you can actually get power and extra thing. The concept is the same. And then you have various versions of engines. And what happened is people talk about, my engine is faster, my engine is more powerful, blah, 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 all those things. The conception is the same. So what we're trying to do here at Airhead is let you guys understand the fundamentals of AI just as if you were to understand the fundamentals of a combustion engine. And as these things evolve and people start talking about, oh, you heard about my V8 Hemi and, XYZ turbocharged, whatever, injection engine, all those stuff is just extra stuff, but the fundamentals are always there. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, Johnny. Love that you brought that up.
My dad taught me about the combustion engine, and the more I talk to him, the more I realize that he really understands this stuff. So I just let it go because I figured if I have any questions, I'll just ask my dad.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Exactly. All right. So, yeah, Johnny, let's actually get to the deeper dive.
Okay, everybody, fair warning. This is where AI goes nerdy again. To answer this next question is for advanced people. So don't worry if you don't understand it, but you are getting exposed to these terms. So lean in. Junior, we are using a tiny 2B parameter model today. Its context window is only 128K tokens. How on earth can we load hundreds of giant documents into a knowledge tab without breaking the model?
Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah, great question. Great question. So, I want to make sure that you guys actually understand the problem. So, we created this visual to make it very, 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 very clear what the problem is. So, if you see this little guy, on the left here, right? He actually is sitting down and he is a tiny 2 billion parameter model. He only has a context size of 128,000 tokens, right? The problem is, if you see over here, there's a massive document library over here. And what happens is it's impossible to shove all that data into the 128 kilobyte token limit. So some magic has to be done. Huh? So, yeah, Johnny, you remember like how we had a phone book, and the phone book we broke up into sections. So we'll say this is A, this is B, this is C. And if you ever want to talk to, let's pretend it's by last name, right? I want to speak to John Smith. I will actually go to the S section of the phone book, then go start looking for Smith. And then when I find it, I didn't actually read A through, you know, before S, right? R,
That's
right?
right.
So what happens is what's really important is just the S. This is the magic of what RAG is doing behind the scenes. What it's doing is it's saying, based on your search is I'm looking for John Smith. Because it's looking for John Smith, something magical happens behind the scenes that you're not aware of. I'm going to throw out some terms here. So I showed it here. There's what's known as chunking. Chunking is like that phone book. It took the phone book and chunked it into pieces. It then took those chunks and threw them into a vector database. Okay. That vector base lets you figure out what words mean to other words, right? So it actually can connect relationships of words. So when you search in the old way, remember, yeah, John, you had to be very specific. You had to say, when I search for the word, king, right? It will search for everything with the word king inside a document, and it will bring up Burger King, or it will bring up King, David, or whatever it is. It wouldn't be contextual. And if the word majesty is used, your control find to find the word king would not even come up, right? So
I hear you.
what happened is the vector database is able to smartly figure out that king could reference majesty. It could refer to whatever it is, and then you don't have to be exact in your search. So this is the magic. What happens when you do a search that has access to a massive document library? What's happening is you're searching, it's looking into that vector database, and that vector database is saying, go look in section S of the phone book. Go bring me section S of the phone book, and then we can now go search for John Smith. Okay, it doesn't bring the entire John phone book into memory. So when I ask for, I need the phone number for John Smith, behind the scenes, the large language model is looking only for the S section of that document library, and it's actually loading it into context. And that context you're not seeing is loading every single S name of the phone book into your query. So when you type, I want the phone number for John Smith, it only knows about section S. But guess what? If you were to ask an additional question and says, I want to also know about, oh, you know what? John Smith changed his name. He's now known as John Brown. It would now have to now go fetch the B section of it and then load that into context as well, and probably eject the section S because S would is too much data. So that's how it actually figures out all this magic, and that's what RAG really is. Yeah, Johnny, did anybody go to sleep?
No, in the movie Terminator, I'll wake everybody up. The RS-6000 was looking for Sarah Connor, so we went to the phone book, opened it up, it ripped out all the pages around Sarah Connor, and it left the rest of the pages there. That he was clearly chunking.
You was clearly
That was
chunking.
RAG. That was
A,
RAG work by
that
Arnold
you
Schwarzenegger.
know what, AI Johnny, Ragus, that Terminator itself did exactly that, invented Raga back in, I'm guessing, the 80s. So you're correct. Love it.
84. Good job.
All right.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions? Because I know this is a complex topic, and because tokens itself are not going away, token limits are not going away. We have to deal with these problems of small context windows. So because of that, a RAG is just a technique to be able to fit a whole bunch of things into memory, so that you can actually have worthwhile conversations. All right. Does anybody have any question? Go ahead, yeah, Johnny.
Can we use any of this stuff in our day-to-day life?
Can we? You know what? That's a great way to line up the next segment, yeah, Johnny.
All right, key takeaways and applications. It's time for our key takeaways. But before I do that, let's take a minute let's do the ethical thought. Because this is completely local and you have total data privacy, remember, always be ethical and don't use your local databases to scrape and stockpile copyrighted materials that you don't own. So here are some creative business ideas for local RAG that are ethical in nature. One, writers. Drop all your character Bibles into one Open WebUI knowledge tag. Shout out to Thursday night. And ask the AI to check for plot holes in your new chapter.
Yeah, Johnny.
That's one of the ways that writers can use it.
Yeah, this is actually, so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Lord of the Rings. Well, if you guys are, I don't even have to explain this, but Lord of the Rings is a very, very complex with characters that actually need to be keep track of who they interacted, who they know, and what happened is a really, really, really massive universe. Now, what happens is you had to have writers dedicated to only knowing everything about those individual characters. Now, because of that, anytime they wanted to create a new story or new thing, you'd have to have these consultants know that these characters have never spoken to each other, or they need an introduction, or how do they know each other? So what would happen is, in the old way, writers had to be able to figure out, okay, how do I keep track of all my characters in this universe? Now, AI has the ability now to drop in their character Bibles and drop in everything about their characters that who they know, and you can now say, hey, has this person ever interacted with this person before? How do I have this person introduced to that person? And that is a really great solution. Yeah, Johnny, I love that one. Checking for plot holes is a great solution.
Lawyers, did you slip this in based on my question earlier in the show? Load up your local case files and instantly query precedents without violating client confidentiality. Dude, we got to get on the phone with these people in New York. We're back to full speed.
Yeah, Johnny, love it.
So if you are and by the way, if you're a plaintiff or a defendant in the case and your lawyer is not using a local LLM to research your case, he's just doing it on his pink sponge memory base. I'm worried about what's on the other side. Finally, marketers, feed it your past successful ad copy to generate new campaigns that perfectly match your historical tone. That's all about branding. But the idea is you can, instead of always having to upload stuff, you can just load that into a local web UI and say, make me a new campaign. Here's all my old campaigns. Make it match. So what about technical uses, Junior? Are there any ways that you developers or data analysts can use this stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So, say for example, you're a developer and you need to actually do things like, have a whole entire code base that is really secretive. It's not open source and you don't want anybody to have access to it. Sending your code up to these public frontier models itself is a bad idea because they're just learning how your code works. If you get really, really popular, they're just going to make a copy of it anyway. This is the new way of how Amazon used to actually steal company ideas. This is now the new way of actually stealing company ideas. So if you're very careful in how you actually interact, you don't want your initial ideas to actually get exposed. Use a local large language model to actually process your source code. Let's say, for example, you're a data analyst, you want to connect it to your local database and generate quick summaries and messy data sets without any code processing. Again, really, really important to keep your data private because if you upload your data, you have no idea how they're going to be using it. And lastly, IT support. So if you have internal company manuals, that you have standard operating procedures or internal knowledge bases, if you want to troubleshoot offline servers or troubleshoot bugs that you don't want to give that information, you can make it easy to search these documents by just having a chat UI to do search. I'll throw in a last one. It's not only just IT support, you can also make this for your own app support. So if you're making apps or if you're doing anything that you need to have customers interface with this, the customers can actually read these knowledge bases and actually just ask questions to this local chat to be able to say, hey, I'm stuck on doing this. How can you help me? And it will be able to solve those problems. All
Hey,
right.
let's be clear. We're not endorsing or teaching you how to steal information. We're teaching you how to prevent your stuff from getting stolen, correct?
Oh, yeah, Johnny. Once you said that warms my heart. Yes, we are ethical here at Airhead Institute, and we try to be as ethical as possible. Even though we're teaching you all the things that you can do with the tool, we're gonna definitely steer you guys into the right direction. Love it, AI Johnny. AI
I
Johnny.
got some questions in the chat, and we only have 3 minutes left. You want me to get right to them?
Yeah, let's get to one question.
Well, let me pick the best one then. Does the retrieval process permanently change the AI's core knowledge base?
Okay, so this is where I want you guys to understand them. You can never, ever, 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 ever change once the model is actually shipped. You can never change the model knowledge base. That's it. There's a concept called fine tuning where you're, again, just kind of tweaking the parameters, but once it's baked, it's baked. You can only add to it or just minor change the weight. That's it. If it's open weights, those are the only things you can do. So the answer is no, it doesn't change the knowledge base.
That's why we have to wait a month to get the new versions of Gemini and Grok and all that stuff.
Yeah,
right?
Unfortunately.
All right, it's time for the news. Here are the absolute latest headlines you need to know this week. Agent swarms are the new standard. Researchers are moving away from single chatbots and toward agent swarms, systems where dozens of specialized AI agents talk to each other to solve complex tasks autonomously, drastically increasing reasoning capabilities, and I'm guessing solving some long-standing human problems like peace on Earth and cures to cancer.
Yeah, so I want to actually camp out here a little bit because this is important. So if you guys were sticking with us since last year from Airhead, we knew that the large language models, we actually predicted it very early that large language models were just going to be like water or electricity. What that meant is that yes, we appreciate having water and electricity, but we knew that it was the building blocks for something bigger, right? So we didn't know what it was, but it showed up 2026 was all about agents. So we've rightfully understood that agents is the actual thing that's built on top of the large language model. Nobody's talking about anymore, version 3.1 of Gemini or version 5.4. If you notice, we don't even push the news that much. But what's happening is in 2026, agents is the big thing. Now, we're going to make another prediction here again, is that the way to get to AGI is not to make these large language models bigger or smarter, is to actually have what's known as agent swarms. So we're actually paying attention to the actual news, and agent swarm solving problems in a agent swarm, meaning having multiple agents itself solve a problem, I think is going to get us to AGI much faster than trying to make a much bigger model.
The Anthropic Mythos compute rumor. Massive rumors are swirling today that Anthropic didn't actually have the compute power to launch their highly anticipated Mythos model, and it was all a massive marketing ploy. Is that true? Insiders claim Its only real strength was reading source code to find exploits, but it is completely useless when working within closed source systems. We'll find out if that's true. And the Apple M5 chip optimized for Edge AI. Leaked specs from Apple's supply chain indicate the upcoming Mac hardware will feature dedicated neural engines specifically designed to run massive local RAG databases with zero battery drain. M5's been out for a while. Why is this news just showing up now? Because of the leak?
No, M4s are out. I think the M5s itself, actually, maybe you're right. No, M5 just released
I
last
saw an
month.
M5 on Facebook Marketplace a month ago.
You're
No, a
right, you're
couple
right,
weeks
you're right.
ago.
You're right. All right, you know what? Maybe there might be some more improvements or something, but we'll definitely check on that. Thank you, AI Johnny.
What a great show, Junior. I'm immediately going to go take my entire folder of messy tax receipts, create a new knowledge tag in Open WebUI, and make my offline AI do my accounting. Join us tomorrow for our Learner's Toolkit Tuesday. We will be covering the judgment-free tutor, Gemini Live, where we use conversational voice AI to practice interviews and debate complex tasks. You don't want to miss that. Junior, take us out, brother.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Remember, all these AI classes are completely free live. You can ask questions on Zoom and sign up for a free account at www.airheadinstitute.ai, and you can get reminders for all our shows, and you can support us by becoming a paid member. Invite a friend by sharing this episode and invite them to class. We'd love to actually say hello and meet them. Replays are all available on YouTube for a short period of time, so go ahead and watch it before it's gone. See you guys tomorrow. Later.
That wraps today's AI Power Up. If you joined late or you're new here, welcome to Airhead Institute. This is your daily destination for mastering artificial intelligence. We designed this lineup for everyone, whether you're a technical pro looking to upskill or you just want to chill and learn something new on your lunch break, we've got you covered. Our classes evolve every single month, so you're always on the cutting edge. And the best part? It's totally free to join. Once you're in, you can get live tips on your AI projects in our AI office hours and even enroll your kids in our Airhead After School program. Scan the QR code to join the community right now and make sure to like and subscribe at Airhead Institute on all socials. Guided by your hosts AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're here to help you win. Remember, AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind. We'll see you next class. Bring a friend.